Hey, Merfolk and Soulherder fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check out the link above to my Patreon page. I'm back with a replay of a match that I played in the last week or so. It was a fun one. I thought you guys would enjoy it. So let's see how it went. I won the die roll, and this is a lovely hand. It doesn't have a 2-drop, but with Noble Hierarch, we can ramp into Eternal Witness, get back a fetch land, make sure that we can keep hitting our land drops. Ephemerate to protect our creatures if necessary, get more value out of Eternal Witness, some removal with Path to Exile. Looks pretty good. Opponent kept 7 as well. I'm going to open up with Flooded Strand, go ahead and get a Temple Garden. Play out Noble Hierarch. Alright, Flooded Strand, looks like blue-white control. And yeah, we'll just go for Eternal Witness. We did draw another one. Okay, that resolves. And things are looking pretty good. We can start attacking with Exalted next turn. Alright, opponent plays a Scalding Tarn. Knight of Autumn, with the Scalding Tarn, could be like a Jeskai deck. Also could just be like a random fetch land and just be a regular blue-white deck. So if it's Jeskai, I mean, they could start throwing, excuse me, they could start throwing like Lightning Helixes at us at some point. But doesn't seem like our life total is going to be jeopardized that much. A Knight of Autumn, not the best draw. It can just be a 4-3 beater. Although, pardon me, I've got a bit of a cough here. All right. I was going to say, in combination with Ephemerate, since this looks like a removal-heavy deck, we could just start gaining 4 life, and if they try to kill this guy, we can just Ephemerate and continue gaining life. Might have been the correct way to go about it. I believe I chose to put counters on this guy, trying to get in for 5 with Exalted, make it a pretty quick clock. But, you know, with 3 toughness, it's still pretty weak to something like Lightning Bolt. Okay, so here's the Teferi. We don't have a counter for that, but we've got plenty of creatures on the board. If he bounces one of our creatures, we can just, you know, get rid of him next turn when we attack. So nothing in the graveyard to get back yet. We could crack a Flooded Strand, blink the Eternal Witness, get back the Flooded Strand. That might be reasonable, because then on the rebound, when we blink Eternal Witness again, we can grab Ephemerate back. But I chose just to hang on to the Ephemerate for now. So go ahead and get rid of Teferi. Whenever there's a Planeswalker on the board, 90+% of the time it's going to be correct just to get rid of that thing right away. If the opponent, you know, wraths our board, they start consolidating, start ticking up their Planeswalkers, things can go pretty bad pretty quick. Just going to play out this Knight again, put more counters on it. Again, I think it might have been better against all this removal to potentially just keep gaining life. Even though they're not pressuring my life total, better to get value out of the Knight rather than have him just get bounced by Teferi or hit by a Lightning Bolt. If they get hit by a Lightning Bolt, I blink him, put the tokens back, the counters back on him. Not really gaining any value out of blinking him. Or her, I guess. All right, here's another Teferi. He's going to bounce my Knight again. I have a feeling this is going to go similarly. Okay, so this is actually all of my dual lands out of the deck now. Ice Fang is a pretty good draw. That is a nice card to have with Ephemerate in hand. All right, so is the opponent going to let us kill this Teferi? Okay, looks like they do. Still don't have a lot of value in the graveyard, so we can continue holding this Witness in hand. So at this point, it looks like just some kind of Jeskai control-y deck with Teferi. Though decks that run Teferi can often be combo-y decks, and the main idea with running Teferi is for his static ability, preventing opponents from interacting with their combo. But we haven't seen any kind of combo elements yet. Okay, here's a Stoneforge, so it's kind of obviously got some value elements in the deck. They went and got a Batter Skull. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with how Soulherder works, We are not afraid of Batterskull at all. We have Knight of Autumns that we can blink and just blow that guy up. Path to Exile, Death Touch. A lot of ways to deal with Batterskull. And they tap out for a Seasoned Pyromancer. So I go ahead and flash in this Codal. And I have to admit, I think during this match, I forgot that, excuse me, if I ephemerate and then it rebounds, well, no, I'm sorry. That was just on the last turn when I forgot that interaction with Eternal Witness, that I would be able to grab it back on the rebound. Here, I'm just going to ephemerate on the Coatl, draw a card, Force is beautiful, and now on the rebound, I get to continue drawing cards, which is pretty awesome. Okay, and then for the draw step, I hit a Watcher for tomorrow. This is beginning to look like a deck that does not run Wraths, so not feeling too afraid about getting a bunch of creatures onto the board. Go ahead and path that Stoneforge so it doesn't only cost 2 to get that Batterskull in play. If they want to get that thing into play, they're going to have to pay full price. Swinging with the Knight with Exalted, it's a 5/4. Can't be killed by the opponent's creatures. They just chump. And I'll get this Watcher out now, see what he can find me. So here, I think Eternal Witness is just like the value choice. Deputy of Detentions, they're not going to have, doesn't look like they have a lot of permanents that I'll need to exile. All right, so here's a sword that has protection from green and black, which means that the only creature that would be able to block with right now would be the Watcher. So it just seems like it's something worth countering, especially since I can start getting things back with Eternal Witnesses. And here's another Stoneforge. I imagine that having played that sword out and having Batterskull in hand, they don't have another equipment to fetch, and that was indeed the case. So we're going to start off just by pathing that Stoneforge right away. Swing in with the Watcher. If the opponent wants to trade, we're fine because we get the Eternal Witness back, but they did not. People tend to be quite afraid of Watcher because they don't know what's underneath him, and it could be pretty scary. Okay, well, so it's Felidar Guardian. Definitely a Saheeli combo deck. He's going to blink the Seasoned Pyromancer. Not too scary. I could have tried to ephemerate Eternal Witness, get back Path in response, and Path the Seasoned Pyromancer, but I just didn't feel the pressure. Okay, opponent going for Saheeli. So at this point, now that they're tapped out, I will ephemerate the Eternal Witness. I'll get back a Force of Negation, and I'll just counter the Saheeli. So here is a great example of where the raw power of like the value engine of Soulherder decks kicks in, because I'm gonna get this rebound, and as rebound resolves, Eternal Witness's trigger goes on the stack, and Ephemerate is in the graveyard, so I can just get back and Ephemerate. Okay, since they're tapped out, I'll immediately cast the Ephemerate. Okay, get back the other Ephemerate. Play an Eternal Witness. Get back a Force. So now I've got Force back up. I've got an Ephemerate that's already exiled that's going to be rebounding, and an Ephemerate to protect anything that my opponent tries to remove. So we'll get in with Coatl in the air for 2. Opponent's down to 7. Definitely not casting my Force on a Serum Visions. And, this Felidar Guardian is pretty lonely without Saheeli, and we've got counter backup for that. So since the opponent's down to 2 mana, we can go ahead and try to force this Jace. If they have a counter, it's fine. We're going to get back our counter next turn anyway. And Jace on the battlefield is not... unfortunately, we don't have another blue card because the opponent remanded it. And when they remand Force, you can obviously cast it again for free, but not at the moment. Opponent is going to look at the top card, I believe, of their library here. All right, so rebound. Got so much value now going. We're going to get back the Ephemerate. Plenty of lands on the battlefield. Cast Ephemerate again, get back a Path. Go ahead and path the Felidar Guardian, get rid of that combo piece. Cast Ephemerate again on Eternal Witness, get back another path. Path the Seasoned Pyromancer, and there's not much the opponent can do against this. Alright, so get in with all these guys. I've got redundant Eternal Witnesses. We don't really care if the opponent trades with one of them. And we chose to attack the opponent here because Jace is really just not that threatening right now. The opponent is going to brainstorm now. Okay, 5 mana hardcasting Batterskull. Might as well counter that. The opponent can't really combo off with 3 mana here. Okay, they have their own force, which is fine because Batterskull will resolve, but you know, we've got a lot of creatures and we're going to have access to multiple Path to Exiles on our turn. So, blink the Eternal Witness, get back Ephemerate, even though it's a little bit overkill now, I could just get back the Path. Just sort of playing, you know, the way you should while you're generating value. But at the end here, the opponent, I guess, you know, I could get my path forced if the opponent has another Force of Negation in hand. So it probably makes sense to get back the 2 paths. Hit Batterskull, opponent had no counters, and just swing with Exalted for the win. So this is a great example of how well Soulherder does against other decks that are trying to grind out value. Like, they just can't compete with multiple counter spells, multiple removal spells, just getting replayed turn after turn after turn. So I've had a lot of matches that have gone this way with Soulherder, and it's some of the more satisfying Magic that I've ever played. I mean, like, Merfolk is super fun, and I love it, and it's a really powerful deck, but it does not have access to the kind of value that Soulherder does. I mean, Soulherder has a bunch of dinky 1/1s. Merfolk can go like huge with 5/5 unblockable creatures, but it's just a very different play style. All right, so game 1 against Jeskai, Saheeli, Stoneblade. Let's go ahead and see how game 2 went. All right, back for game 2. Let's take a quick peek at the sideboard, see what I did. So it looks like I had a bunch of stuff to bring in. So I trimmed on the edges of the deck. So this was funny because I actually made a mistake sideboarding here and had been thinking about Knight of Autumn's performance in the early game and how I kept putting counters on it and it didn't do anything. Later, the opponent revealed that they were playing a Stoneforge Mystic deck, and I forgot that Artifact Destruction would be very useful. So it's just that their artifacts were so low impact that I didn't even think to bring in my second Autumn. Instead, I actually took my Knight of Autumn out. Took out 1 Soulherder, took out 1 Force of Negation, took out 1 Muldrifter, and I guess they did play enough creatures to make bringing in a second Winds of Abandon worth it. But it looks like I brought in, what did I even bring in here? I don't know, it's a bit of a mystery. Didn't bring in Collector Oofs, because again, I guess I wasn't really concerned with artifacts. Maybe I brought in a single Disdainful Stroke? I don't know, this is puzzling. So let's just think strategy-wise. What is the opponent trying to do? They're trying to play Saheeli, trying to play Felidar Guardian. So what answers Saheeli? I don't know, maybe I'll draw into sideboard cards and remember, but yeah, I'm kind of baffled on this one. So no sideboard cards in the opening hand, but this is a keep. A little bit sketchy, but the opponent, if they're playing removal, you know, they could path my Hierarch, which is kind of a win for us. Yeah, let's see if I draw into any sideboard cards. Let's go ahead and get that Temple Garden, play the Hierarch, and hopefully it'll live. Okay, tapped Hallowed Fountain, untapped Hallowed Fountain for Stoneforge Mystic. So probably gonna go grab Batterskull, I'd imagine, and that's what happened. All right, so I missed my land drop, which means probably want to lead on Coiling Oracle here. Another Hierarch, and it gets revealed to the opponent. So I guess it didn't really matter since I didn't have a land drop there whether I play Coiling Oracle. If they hit a land, I could just play it anyway. So Coatl or Oracle, they both work there. Okay, tap Steam Vents, and opponent thinks about activating Stoneforge and then remembers that they're probably supposed to do it on my turn. Okay, so we drew a land. That was wonderful. Let's get another Hierarch out. Continue developing our mana. We can hold up Ice Fang. We can hold up Force with pitching Mulldrifter. We can hold up Path. Lots of good stuff. Okay, so I got in with Coiling Oracle, double Exalted. If the opponent brings in Batterskull, we've got Path up, and that was, what I expected them to do. So Path that. Opponent's going to take 3. Start the clock ticking, and you can see that Hierarch kind of changes the dynamics of our combat step. This 1/1 wouldn't be able to do anything, but swinging as a 3/3 is pretty significant. All right, opponent taps some mana, untaps some mana. Crack a Misty Rainforest. Let's go ahead and get Soulherder out on the table. Now we can't protect it currently, but we've got an Eternal Witness that can get it back eventually. Opponent has a Helix, so one line that they could have taken if we didn't play the Soulherder was bounce Batterskull for 3, and then flash it in with Stoneforge Mystic for a total of 5 mana, which they do have access to. By sort of forcing their hand by playing Soulherder, they can't follow that Batterskull line here. All right, so they take 3 more. They did gain 3 off the Lightning Helix, so the deck does have access to some life gain. Okay, so they have both their equipment in hand. A little bit scary since we only have green blockers right now. We can get a Mulldrifter out eventually. Okay, opponent equips. They're going to be able to get in. We have to discard something when they hit, so I'm going to flash in this Coatl. And that was great because I'd rather not pitch any of these cards in hand. I quite like them. So we'll pitch the Breeding Pool that I just drew off the Coatl. And opponent follows up with the Felidar Guardian. They're going to blink the Stoneforge, but they've already got their... they get to blink Batterskull, which makes a lot more sense, obviously, than blinking Stoneforge without any more equipments in the deck. Batterskull will get its Living Weapon trigger again. And none of this is particularly concerning. We've still got Force if the opponent goes for Saheeli. We've got plenty of Path to Exiles to draw into to start dealing with these creatures. As I showed you with the sideboard, I didn't bring in any Artifact Destruction, so you would think that I might be in a bit of a pickle here, but I don't think it really mattered that I didn't have Artifact Destruction. All right, so we do have access to 6 mana this turn. The opponent's on 1 card, so I'm going to go grab Soulherder and try to get that guy back on the battlefield. Okay, it resolves. Going to get in with Exalted, double Exalted. Opponent goes down to 10. We do get a Soulherder trigger on the end step. We only have a Path right now to grab from the graveyard, so I'm going to dig a bit with Ice Fang Coatl. We don't have any mana up to be able to actually cast the Path right now. So we grab another Eternal Witness off the top of the deck. And, Eternal Witness at this stage in the game is just so crazy because you get back Soulherder, start the value engine. Snapcaster is pretty nice in this spot. But the opponent is effectively top decking when, I have access to the best card in my graveyard, a whole bunch of creatures on the battlefield, and I've got Force in hand. So I went for Lightning Helix, and I let it resolve because it's much scarier, a much scarier possibility that the opponent could rip Saheeli off the top and just combo us out. So being patient, especially the opponent went after the Eternal Witness. We had another one in hand. It's really surprising that they didn't go after the Soulherder. Okay, I think they get in with both of their equipped creatures here. Gonna throw the Death Toucher in front of Batterskull. Opponent gains some life. I have to pitch a card, but it doesn't really matter since I've got Eternal Witness in hand. And the opponent has a second Felidar Guardian as the last card in their hand. They're gonna blink Batterskull. Again, looks like a pretty high, high impact play, but it doesn't really stack up to Eternal Witness and Soulherder. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that path now. Opponent's empty-handed. We're going to get a Soulherder trigger on the end step. I decided just to draw some cards here with my remaining 3 mana. So we drew the Ephemerate, but I have no more mana, so I could have had the sick combo with Muldrifter. But the Evoke trigger is going to resolve. Muldrifter goes to the graveyard. I'm at 9 life with plenty of blockers. So we blink. The Eternal Witness going to get back Force of Negation. Opponent can't resolve Saheeli. And they're going to get in with their equipped creatures again. We'll throw the Oracle under the bus here. Keep our life total sort of high. We have to pitch a card, but you can see with the loop we've got going and all the cards in hand, it doesn't really affect us too much. Okay. So it looks like I brought in a Celestial Purge. The main card that deals with is Saheeli. Like, if they get down on Saheeli first and no Felidar Guardian, we can get rid of her. I think I just pretty much misboarded here. I should have brought in a second Knight. I don't think Collector Oof is necessary. It's possible a single Celestial Purge is reasonable. It can also get rid of a Germ token. So let's see. We pathed the Stoneforge. Opponent is going to remand our Ephemerate. We just cast it again. Get back the path. And we can play Deputy here to get rid of the Felidar Guardians. It's just, so much value. End step, blink Eternal Witness. Get back Force of Negation. So we have a blue spell to pitch if they do rip something scary off the top. But this is how these matches tend to go. There's a Saheeli, and I guess what they could do here is copy the Snapcaster. But they don't really have anything in their graveyard that they'd be able to flash back that would do anything. So yeah, that was it. Soulherder is really strong against decks that try to grind value because Soulherder just does that too well. So leave your thoughts down below on the match, on the matchup in general against, I guess, Saheeli decks, but also against other sort of Snapcaster grindy decks. Have you had the same experience that I've had? I mean, if you check out Soulherder here, I didn't even mention that he was an 8/8 at this point in the game. I was just holding him back, because the opponent still had a Batter Skull. We were definitely going to get to a point where we could just remove everything on the board with this recurring Eternal Witness with Path to Exile, and eventually start attacking with sort of gigantic Soulherders and Exalted Triggers, all that stuff. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. And if you want to support the channel, please take a moment and check out my Patreon page. I think I'm going to be back with one more replay video for you guys, so I'll join you in that one. See you there. Bye.